Hello everyone, Fredericks 2007 here, back again with another October movie review for you guys once again. To those who haven't seen my last review, the 1996 Wes Craven Scream film, well, you should check that out for yourself. But today's second movie review is literally another Wes Craven classic, one of my favorite horror films ever, clearly the 1984's Nightmare on Elm Street. Because we all do know this guy, like Freddy Krueger, the backstabbing murderer that a child murderer, that he got killed by the parents of children around Elm Street, and he ends up being burnt, and he just came back to hunt down your dreams and murder you in the inside, which is a very creative way for a horror character back in the 80s. So yeah, this guy's been always been remembered, lovable throughout all of his movies, all 8 of the original Nightmare on Elm Street films, played that Robert Englund that he's always been in. And basically, we always do know about that crappy 2010 reboot, which that movie was terrible. Jackie O'Haley did not do it justice at all. We always, basically, Robert Englund is the one that we all know and loved more, because he is so Freddy Krueger-ish. Like, he always captures the character very well. So yeah, today's video, which just come back to just bring it back where it all started, the first movie from 1984. And clearly, it's nothing that special with everybody nowadays, because clearly they must, a lot of people prefer his part 3, The Dream Warriors, but to me, I always loved the first movie. The first movie, it's the masterpiece where it all started throughout the whole the whole Nightmares franchise. Because clearly we all did know that Robert Englund came back as Freddy Krueger in a comedy family show around last year. Until then, nowadays, Robert Englund's began to miss his character, and he says he wants to be in one more horror film, which is pretty interesting. Until now, this October, I really want to bring up my thoughts and my opinion on the very first movie, where it all started. So yeah. Because literally it all begins with these teenagers around Elm Street, so the main character, the first character that shows up on screen, is literally Tina. So basically she's been had a nightmare in the beginning of that scene, until then, she wakes back up because she had a dream that she was in a boiler room and she saw a goat for some reason. Until then she got caught by someone, until then she wakes up. Until the next morning, she starts talking to her friends, which is basically the other main characters, which is Nancy Thompson, and her boyfriend is Glenn, also played by none other than Johnny Depp himself, and Tina's boyfriend, Ron. That they told them that she has a nightmare, and they should, come over to her house in that night. Until then, stuff happens. So yeah, when she begins to sleep, she starts dreaming again and starts seeing the strange figure of wearing the striped sweater, have the finger knife glove. Until then, she starts getting killed by Freddy Krueger himself. Because clearly, for the past 18 minutes throughout the whole movie, she got killed off. Until then, later on in the movie, Nancy gets to be the main lead, Nancy Thompson. So yeah, so throughout the whole movie, she starts having the same dreams like her. But until then, she sees that Freddy Krueger is literally a real person into her dream and starts trying to kill her in the inside. So throughout the whole movie, she's trying to survive and trying to explain everybody that she's starting to have the same nightmares with this figure called Freddy Krueger. Until then, her mother starts to explain everything, that Fred Krueger was a child murderer around Elm Street, that he literally killed 20 kids around 12 kids around the neighborhood. Until then, their parents starts burning him, burning down his house, and it burns him up. Until then, he comes back as a person in your dreams. So that's a very creative way for a horror slasher villain. That's really great, Wes Craven. I like what you did what you put up in your mind. So yeah, so throughout the whole movie, Nancy's trying to survive throughout until the ending of the movie to try to catch Fred Krueger. Until then, they're going to end up arresting him. So that's basically the plot throughout the ending of the movie, but she was trying to explain that her dreams basically came true. that the real child murderer is trying to kill her. Until then, you know, everyone's not believing her, especially her mother and father. So that's basically like one of the horror films that literally, you know, that always gets you, like horror, like basically parents and people don't believe you about, you know, whatever's happening to you. So yeah, until the ending, all the way to the ending of the movie, that she is basically going to try to catch Freddy Krueger. But until then, you know, literally her boyfriend, like all the way across the street, Glenn, he ended up getting killed by Freddy Krueger himself, by one of the coolest deaths ever made. So clearly she ends up making booby traps around in her house so she can catch Freddy Krueger when she just brings him out of the dream world and brings him to the real world. So all the way to the ending of the movie, she did it. Until then, her father is a cop, and he already came into the house for the rescue, trying to catch Fred Krueger. But Fred Krueger ends up killing her mother in the bed. So basically, he is gone. Until then, Freddy Krueger ends up getting ignored by her. Until then, it gets to the scene when Nancy's mother will start screaming, being killed by Freddy Krueger when she was being dragged through the front door of their house. So the thing is, like, Wes Craven himself, he did not like the ending at all in the ending of the first movie, but it ended that way, and it starts the Nightmare series. That's where it all begins. It starts there. So yeah, the original Nightmare on Elm Street film, literally a classic masterpiece, and Freddy Krueger has been created by Wes Craven himself, and his burnt face being based off a mixed up pizza, which is pretty cool. And he's always been one of the most known characters to me. Like, he is one of my most favorite horror slashers of all time. I'm always a fan of him, so I always watch his movies and stuff, so yeah. So yeah, that was A Nightmare on Elm Street 1984, the original. So to those who are new to Freddy Krueger and wants to start watching his movies, start watching the first movie, the original. That's where it all started. You should definitely start there. So I give Wes Craven's Nightmare on Elm Street, the original, a solid 9 out of 10. One of my most favorite films ever made. Like, one of my most favorite films of all time, and it's always going to be a timeless classic to me. So check it out while you still can. So I'll see you guys in the next review, so take care.